Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
Welcome in to a very, very special edition of the JMU Sports News Podcast. I am Bennett Conlon, joined by Jack Fitzpatrick. And the Dukes, they have college game day. They're 10-0 in football. They're ranked in men's basketball. Soccer teams are pretty good. It's a pretty good time to be a Duke.
I'm shocked at how good things are going. And apparently the NCAA, I don't know if you saw Pete Thamel's reporting on it from like 45 minutes ago and recording. Apparently the NCAA will meet and have a decision on JMU's letter by the end of the week.
I saw him say that. That was like in passing, right? Of like
it was more so talking about Tarleton State, and it was like in passing that JMU might also, like, they're going to meet and talk about both of their waivers
at the same time. I would hope that the discussion would sort of just be like, hey, Tarleton State, they suck, but what the Dukes are doing is so unbelievable that we're actually going to put them into the college football playoff.
Yeah, cool. we'd be this year's Cincinnati essentially, but
yeah, they should just, that's the waiver. The waiver is like they're actually this year's Cincinnati, so they're the 4 seed.
McLeod equal to Desmond Ritter, Chauncey Logan equal to Sauce Gardner.
Right, so like the Dukes play App State as sort of like a fun scrimmage type thing, just for the fans to enjoy game day. McLeod doesn't play; it's the Billy Atkins game. McLeod plays for the Falcons over the weekend. Like, that would make the most sense for the waiver, but we'll see what they end up doing.
You know what else makes the most sense for the waiver?
This would be a great transition.
Drinking a 3-notch beer while we wait for it to come through from the NCAA. Drinking a 3-notched beer at college game day. And you know how you can get some 3-notched beer for college game day?
You show up to the tap room on Friday at approximately 5 p.m.
At approximately 5 p.m., there's this thing happening, live podcast. I'm petitioning to get Pat McAfee on the show because he'll be in the vicinity. He'll be within a mile of 3-notch, but when we start taping the show, roughly. So everyone start tweeting at Pat McAfee to get him to 3-Notch Valley Collab House. We will graciously welcome him on the podcast. But if everyone could just start tagging him and everything and let him know that everyone wants him at the live podcast. 5 p.m., 3-Notch Valley Collab House. And happening on that Friday, it's First Draft Friday. Every Friday, $3 beers of the draft that they are tapping for the first time that day. It's Wednesday, so you missed out on Minuteman Monday, but you can get it next week. But every Tuesday, right now, I believe they are still open. You can get half off cases at the Valley Collab House.
Heck yeah.
Chad nicely. I can't imagine the NCAA wants 3 hours of game day with signs and commentary just destroying them the entire time. Not wrong. I also don't know how much of an impact that will make.
You'd be surprised how much the NCAA likes to get trashed.
The NCAA has made a living out of getting trashed, but you know who hasn't made a living of getting trashed? BetOnline, the last of the major sports leagues, is off and rolling, and college basketball has just tipped off. And BetOnline, with all that happening, remains your spot for your live betting action and contests. NFL, college football, UFC, NHL, college football. I already said that. College basketball, all of it in full swing. BetOnline is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions. All the hoops betting action, along with every sport, all available right at your fingertips, with both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to BetOnline today, betonline.ag, and remember to use our promo code. This is our promo code, folks, BLEAV, for your 50% welcome to bonus. You throw $50 down as your first-time deposit, they'll hook you up with a $25 bet credit or bonus fund, something like that. It's 50%. BetOnline, where the game starts, and where love starts is with our friends over at Christopher William Jewelers.
There's a reason Christopher William Jewelers has been voted Best of Virginia year after year. It's not just one thing that sets us apart. It's everything. It's the selection, extensive and unmatched, with every engagement ring, loose diamond, and fashion jewelry chosen for quality and brilliance. It's the service. From our diamond experts to our master goldsmith, our team shares a passion for what they do, and it shows. It's the atmosphere, both glamorous and laid back. See for yourself why people can't stop talking about Christopher William Jewelers in Harrisonburg and Weir's Cave.
Both glamorous and laid back.
Heck yeah. My good friend, Matt Wyrick,
Yes.
a former podcast guest,
Yes.
got married over the weekend. I'm just going to assume that he went to Christopher William Jewelers because it's the place to go.
If he didn't, we have some talking to.
I'm just going to assume, yeah. Good for him.
Yeah, thank you for using Christopher William Jewelers.
CWJ.
You know what's as brilliant as those diamonds from Christopher William Jewelers?
Jordan McLeod.
Jordan McLeod, the JMU offense, what they just did to UConn was absolutely fantastic. Do you want to start with football and then we'll move to men's basketball? Is that the way you want to go follow the outline?
Let's do that. They took down a UConn team that won a championship last year in men's basketball. So that's
you're going with that.
1-9 UConn was they lived up to sort of what you might have expected. I guess they were 1-8 going into the game. But not a lot of teams have actually dismantled UConn quite the way JMU did. So I was impressed with the performance, impressed with Jordan McLeod. 44-6. He only threw four incompletions on 37 passes. What do you have? 457 passing yards.
Yeah, McLeod went 33 of 37, 457, 4 tutties, rushed for a few more yards. Actually, had negative yards. I'm reading the wrong note. He had negative yards rushing, -4. But that 457 passing yards, the most passing yards in Bridgeforth Stadium. It is a Bridgeforth Stadium record.
Yeah, that's darn good. A relatively quiet day for Elijah Surratt and Reggie Brown, who only combined for 22 catches for 362 yards and 2 touchdowns. What an absurd duo they have there on the outside. It's also absurd because they started the year with Surratt as a backup wide receiver and McLeod as the backup quarterback. And then you got him here in week 11 or whatever, 10th game of the year, and he throws for 457 yards with Surratt having 13 catches for 160 yards. I think the 202 receiving yards was I think it was a single game record for JMU for Brown.
Yeah.
And 13 catches for Surratt was a record.
Ties a record.
Ties a record. Okay. Yeah. What a passing performance.
I mean, it's kind of what we expect. We didn't expect program defining games, but I think in the 3 Notch Weekly preview last week, you said UConn secondary stinks. Expect a big day out of the Duke's passing attack. I don't know if we necessarily expected 457 program type of day from Reggie Brown and Elijah Surratt. I was absolutely insane. I mean, most of it really felt like it came in the second half because the first half went punt, field goal, touchdown, punt, and only scored 13 points.
Kind of like a slow-ish start.
You tripped over your words there for a second.
I did. I got caught on I got like a canker sore that caught my lip. It's that much of a struggle right now, my lower lip. But no, I mean, like they completely abandoned the run, which was awesome. We've been asking for that for a while. Nice to see him just like not even give it to a running back. And it worked. It worked really well. And it took a little bit, right? And UConn, I thought, came out with probably a little bit more energy. I think maybe some of the being undefeated, asking for the waiver again, maybe a little distracting where they had UConn, I thought, had more energy than the Dukes, but they settled in and dominated. I know some people were a little like, oh, why are they settling for field goals? Because UConn can't physically score points.
Yeah, they just scored a touchdown. They did not score a touchdown.
Yeah, so those decisions to kick field goals were, I think, similar to the Troy game, but obviously with very different logic, right? But field goals, you get them against UConn, you're going to secure the win pretty quickly. Yeah. And then once you start to add the touchdowns late, you'll pull away, and that's sort of what happened.
I mean, that second half was just masterful. It started with a field goal, and I think all fans were kind of like, uh-oh, are they just going to be field goaling them to death for the rest of the game? Then from there, touchdown, pick 6, end of game.
It's pretty good.
After a 13-point first half, the Dukes had 24 points, outscored UConn by 21. And I just want to run this by you. This might be a lot of numbers, but I found this from the bye week. And it's really eye-opening if what JMU has been able to do offensively post-bye, because this team is a completely different team after they had that week of rest after South Alabama. So first half scoring, I'm already messing up these numbers coming at you. Second half scoring for JMU. Against UVA, they were outscored by 2 points. Troy, they only scored 3 points, and they were outscored by 4. Utah State, they only scored 7 points in the second half, and the Aggies outscored them by 14. And South Alabama, they only scored 7 points, and they were outscored by 9. So in every FBS game before the bye week, they are outscored in the second half. Since the bye week, they've put up 21, 17, 16, 28, 31 in the second half. And over these last 2 weeks, they've put up 59 second half points, and they've outscored their opponent by 49 points.
That's wild.
Like, they have just turned it on in the second half. And this was a team that was one of the worst, if not the worst, third quarter teams in the entire country. And now all of a sudden they are just blowing the doors off of you in the second half.
That's a great stat, great series of stats. And it sort of points to, I guess, a larger point I wanted to make. Every game, except for, I guess, Troy and Old Dominion, those are sort of the two exceptions. They've had a stretch where they've been very clearly better than the other team, which I think is pretty interesting. Like UVA, Utah State, they had stretches, even though those were close games. Same with South Alabama, where they were a way better football team. And they've done it in some of these games where they've been a better football team for the entire game. But I think that's something to keep an eye on, is that they're so good right now that they can have just one absurd quarter where they have 14 points or 21 points and they don't allow any, and the game's essentially decided. So I think ODU and Troy are sort of the two teams that have been able to actually avoid that and give themselves a chance to win late without needing sort of this absurd run in the middle of the game or the end of the game or something. I don't know if App State or Coastal have that in them, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. And I don't know if App State or Coastal will necessarily have the dogs to keep up with Jordan McLeod, because what he's done as of late has been nothing short of, what adjective do you want to use here? Amazing, awe-inspiring, magical, wild, unbelievable. What's the adjective we're using here? Because what is, I mean, this run from Jordan McLeod has been unexpected.
I guess so. I guess unexpected. He's playing at an absurdly high level, which coming into the year, we broke down his film based on some small highlight packages. And we said, this guy's the best player in the Sun Belt. And now he's the best player in the Sun Belt. It's kind of like what I expected in early August.
Yes. Yeah.
But then didn't expect come like September.
I mean, it's kind of like he didn't start all of fall camp as the QB1, and he wasn't expected to be the starter to start the season. It just took a little while for his feet to get under him. And I think that's why we've seen such growth out of this team as a whole post-bye week, because they were able to kind of have that time together. And you really haven't heard Cignetti throw the QB1 under the bus anymore like he was in those comeback wins, or I guess near comeback losses that were wins. Seemingly after every one of those games, he was throwing his quarterback under the bus. Hasn't really done that the last few weeks, but that might be because Jordan McLeod over the last 3 weeks has thrown for 1,104 yards, tossed 11 touchdowns, and he's run for another 113 over the last 3 weeks with 3 tutties on 77.9% completion percentage.
Just unreal. He's playing really well, taking advantage of some bad secondaries. And the Surratt-Brown combination is better than I thought. Do you feel like that trio, we got any NFL guys in there? Any NFL draft picks in there?
That's really hard, because I thought Thornton always had a ton of production, but never really projected to the next level. Todd Centeio's playing in the XFL, and I still think that Centeio may is a better quarterback than Jordan McLeod, kind of in a lot of different aspects. McLeod might be a little bit of a flashier player, but Centeio's not playing in the NFL. The close receiver seen play over the last 10 years to make it to the NFL would be Antoine Wells, and he's just in the SEC. So do I think maybe, maybe Reggie Brown can project out and find his way onto a roster? I think Reggie Brown's probably the most likely out of the three, but Elijah Surratt still has a lot of time left, so maybe Elijah Surratt can grow into something. Probably more likely than the quarterback is the wide receivers.
Reggie Brown's really fast.
That was great insight.
But like, I didn't know he was that. I knew he was fast coming into the year, but I didn't realize that he would be like
Fast.
chuck it deep, James Franklin style, hit somebody. I think somebody, I think it was Hank Kurz with the AP asked him after the game if he could overthrow Reggie Brown. McLeod was like, no, he's pretty fast. That seems accurate. He just doesn't ever seem to really miss him deep because he's an incredible deep threat. I didn't think he would be that good at deep threat coming into the year. I thought he'd have a good year. I didn't realize he'd be that dangerous deep.
That's a really good point because he is a weapon deep and he has a great connection with McLeod. Was it the Marshall game where they just kind of figured something out on the defense that Cignetti confirmed the signs that they were seeing, and then from there they just kind of let it rip to Brown. McLeod also, since the bye week, is averaging 35 pass attempts per game, which is something I never thought I would see from a Curt Cignetti offense.
He's gotten better. They're trusting him more. It all sort of seems to go hand in hand. He's been awesome. Deep. I think he's a better deep ball thrower than Centeio was. Like the deep balls they're hitting are so impressive. I don't remember them doing that as much last year. I'm sure I'm missing some. He did have some big ones deep, but
I also think they didn't have as much of a deep threat.
I guess
they didn't
Brown
have a
missed
deep
a few
passing
games too.
game as much.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Brown wasn't what he is now then. I mean, their number one receiver was Chris Thornton last year, right?
Yeah.
So that's like a slot, quick guy, hit him on the slant, let him take it out with the yak. But I do want to hit on this before we kind of move along with some more key takeaways, or if we have any other key takeaways. The development, and I know this has been talked about so many times, but the development of the quarterback position under Mike Shanahan and Tino Cincinnati. Cincinnati joined the staff in 2021. That was when Shanahan was promoted from wide receivers coach to offensive coordinator. All they've done is turn Cole Johnson into one of the best, if not the best FCS quarterback. They turned Todd Centeio into kind of essentially a journeyman quarterback who never really found his full potential into the best quarterback in the Sun Belt. And then they've made Jordan McLeod into a full-fledged Sun Belt Offensive Player of the Year candidate after not even being the QB1.
They're very good. Doing a great job. Obviously, Cignetti is involved with some of that too. Just a great group developing quarterbacks. Yeah, you mentioned it. They sort of turn everybody into a, Sun Belt Player of the Year kind of guy, which is darn impressive. So, yeah, they're unbelievable. They have a nice group of weapons that I've been impressed with. But the way the quarterbacks are playing, they seem to always know where to go with the ball. They've really done a nice job limiting turnovers. They're not mistake free, but they limit turnovers at a pretty high level.
Yeah.
And they use them in the running game, which I think is nice. And Cignetti was saying this in his press conference this week, I guess earlier today on Tuesday, that you kind of need quarterbacks who can run. I guess Cole Johnson was sort of an exception, but he wants
kind of run. He just
didn't
didn't
run a
look
little.
Good. He didn't look good running it.
He could run a little, but yeah, they like to recruit guys who are dual threat and can make plays. I think that's good that the coaching staff is like aware that in 2023, especially in the college game, if you can have a quarterback who can move, it's pretty helpful.
Yeah. And I think we've seen that too, more so in like the Georgia State game when they did run it more. Yeah. McLeod ran it and it opened up running lanes for everyone else. Georgia State was also gassed in that game, but it was also then very promising to see, like you said, the run game wasn't working. Not a single running back had more than 10 carries. Kalon Black, I believe, left with another injury. So it'd be interesting to see how his kind of progress goes throughout the week coming back from that injury. But overall, I mean, the run game wasn't working at all. And they decided, you know what? Let's do more RPO. Let's do more quick hitting things. Let's lean on the pass attack. Let's trust Jordan McLeod. And what happened? He just has one of the best days, arguably the best day ever inside of Bridgeport Stadium.
Run game's weird. Run game's
bad,
right,
like very bad. Like it is one of the worst in the nation. You know what the plus side is, though, and we'll get into it later. App State's rush defense ranks 131st out of 133 teams.
But is that a plus or is that a negative?
Well, we'll see what happens on game day.
I like the other matchups that they've had recently where like the team can stop the run and they're like, oh, then we just don't run because their secondaries are bad. I'm a little worried about that. Like if you're a bad run defense, I don't know if you're scared of JMU's rushing attack. Can they get it going this week? Let's see.
It's the what did I write down? A movable object meets a stoppable force this Saturday.
That's very correct. And not what I expected after watching Bucknell with like Kalen Black having this great game. I was like, wow.
Really? You
They're
came
gonna-
away with a takeaway from the Bucknell game.
Yeah, well, in September, I was like, oh, they can't play. They don't have a good quarterback, wrong. And they're
can
just
run
going
the
to be a
football.
running
Wrong.
offense, run heavy offense. And that's also very incorrect. So what a waste of time that pseudo scrimmage was for everyone.
When I've been like crunching all of these numbers, like early down success rate, breakdowns, post buy, pre buy, I just ignore the Bucknell game. That game did not happen in my mind.
Fake game.
It was a fake game. You know, it's not a fake game. The fact that ESPN's College Game Day is coming to Harrisonburg, I feel like we may have buried the lead here. Did not start with Game Day, but
Fair.
we're hitting it at about the 20-minute mark. I guess when you saw that tweet come across and the Jonas Brothers announcing that they're coming to Harrisonburg, Virginia, what was your reaction?
My reaction was, wow, the Beavers, they got screwed. I was furious for Oregon State and everything they've got. No, I was
Corvallis was robbed.
Corvallis was robbed. I thought it was pretty exciting, very unexpected though, because that's a better game. Like I thought for sure.
You mean a top 25, top 15 matchup between two Pac-12 blue bloods with a potential spot in the Pac-12 championship?
I don't know if you can call Oregon State a blue blood when they're getting axed. Like they're one of the two that gets.
All right,
so
I was hoping you weren't going to call me out on that. All right,
but they're very good. They're one of the few like conference title contenders this year, right? So you got them in Washington.
I mean, they
Great
just 60-piece Stanford.
Washington's undefeated. They're in the playoff hunt. They got a potential Heisman winner. That's a huge game.
Penix is the front runner with odds right now. Vegas sees Michael Penix as the Heisman winner right now.
Sleeping on Bo Nix. Huge game.
Bo Nix is a product of his system.
Yeah, well, they should give it to Jaden Daniels. But anyway.
No, they should give it to Michael Penix. Give it to my guy in the Pacific Northwest. Yes.
Oh my God.
Michael
Heisman talk. I think Jalen Green should get it even.
Where's Jordan McLeod in this Heisman talk?
Jordan McLeod, I put number one.
I mean, yeah, I'd make the odds like minus 125 for Jordan McLeod. Honestly, though, if McLeod continues passing for 450 yards and 4 touchdowns for the last 2 games of the season, does he sneak into the conversation at all?
I don't think so. No.
What if he goes? What if over the last 2 games? Here's an extreme hypothetical before we go back into College Game Day coming. Extreme hypothetical. Over these last 2 games, he throws for a combined 2,000 yards and 15 touchdowns. No, not 2,000 yards. So sorry. 1,000 yards. 15
I was like, you know what? If he throws for 1,000 yards in consecutive games, sure. I don't know if he throws for 1,000 yards, maybe somebody gives him like a 1/3 place vote. Who knows? But anyway, game day's coming. I was surprised,
yes,
because I thought another matchup was better, but very happy. I think it'll be great for the students, great for the school, great exposure. Adds a little pressure for the waiver push, to be honest with you. And there might be some truth to the like ESPN beef with Oregon State that they're like, whatever, we're just gonna pick a non-Power 5 storyline and go with it.
Yeah, and I also think the reason JMU was picked because this is like the 30th year celebration, and there is probably some truth to the beef, but also I think this is like an opportunity for ESPN and College Game Day to show the beauty of college football, and you can go to this unloved place by the NCAA because we're not getting the waiver. You can go to the kind of not the Ohio States, not the Floridas, this kind that what makes college football great is this Sun Belt regional rivalry type of stuff. And you can go there. You've been there twice before. You know, it's an absolutely electric environment. You know that they'll be pushing 12, 13, 14,000 people there. You know, it's going to be beautiful sights, just scenery shots like they've done every time they've come. And it gives you an awesome opportunity to walk out of Wilson again, holding Lee Corso up by his 2 arms, kind of like a Weekend at Bernie's type of thing as he's dressed up in James Madison gear, and let him make a pick.
I think that's all pretty accurate. I don't care at all about the 30th thing. Like, I know they're making it a big thing. Like, it's their 30th anniversary. I don't care. But it's great.
I forgot that was a thing. All I care about is that apparently the Jonas Brothers are coming.
That was interesting. That's a little confusing. 11 a.m. I guess they'll perform. All right.
How
I
long?
don't
How
know.
long's the performance? I feel like it's gonna be
Can't
like
be
a
that long.
15-minute
I don't even know
performance.
if they'll give him 15. I feel like they're gonna give him like a song, and they'll be like, "Yeah."
What's the song they start with?
Oh, they have one with Bailey Zimmerman, who's also there.
Yeah,
That
there's
they
no
like,
way they start with like a random song
so
though.
they got to play that one,
They do,
and
but
then
do they
maybe they get one
start with
more
it?
song. I don't know how many songs they get. They might only have a start and a finish with one.
So you're saying they start with I think they're gonna start with Burning Up.
They got to give them at least two, though, right? That'd be pretty ridiculous. If
I
they
mean, their
flew 'em in and gave
discography
'em a
is
song.
deep. You got to keep them. You got to give them at least 3.
And then I guess they're gonna do a couple after the show ends.
Yeah.
So like from noon to whatever. I don't know. It's all weird, but it's great that they got game day. Third time. Very exciting. We've got some game day coverage on the website, jmusportsnews.com, which is functioning very well these days. So a lot of good stuff there. I'm excited about it, surprised by it. It's cool. And I think it'll add to the atmosphere. It also worries me a little bit, though.
I'm kind of a little worried too. I'm getting Richmond flashbacks.
A lot of scar tissue from that Richmond game day that'll never leave. There was just an assumption I had going to the game that they
we
would win. Yeah.
Yeah. I was in MRD that year. I was so excited. We woke up early. We were playing on the steps of Wilson like the entire show, having a great time. And then the game happened and it all went to shit.
That was not good.
Like that was maybe the worst game possible. Because not only
Yeah.
did you lose the game, but then you lost your star quarterback and all hope just went out the building with his broken ankle.
It was incredibly devastating. Like 3 hours. But the show was cool. The show was fun.
Yeah. Yeah, show was awesome. It was even better the second time they came back, and then we just destroyed Villanova.
Yeah, this is 3 times is wild, though. To get it 3 times in what, I don't know how many years that is, 8.
I didn't think there was a possibility of it even happening. And then when I got I think either Ben or Daniel or Dom or Brian, someone texted one of the group chats we were in that just said, "We got it." I immediately went to the game day Twitter, saw the video of the Jonas Brothers pointing at me and saying, "Hey, Harrisonburg, Virginia, we're coming to your city." And then I remembered that I had forgotten to buy my friend a ticket. Immediately went to Ticketmaster. Everyone boycott Ticketmaster, by the way. They canceled my ticket after buying it on Saturday, right when the announcement was made. I bought it for $100, and then it got canceled on me on Monday, and then the price was $400. So if anyone has an extra ticket, I'll be willing to buy it from you for double face value. That or I'm just going to wait and buy it as I'm walking to the stadium. But that's besides the point. That's the only downside of college game day. It's like hiked up all the prices, and it's what happened against Richmond. It's what happened against Villanova. I will say it's a long show. It's a fantastic show. Be there for the headgear pick at 11:30. Be there for the open at 9 a.m. Between that, for that 2.5 hours, it is a lot of standing. It's a lot of waiting. Bring comfortable shoes. Bring a group of friends that you can talk with, that you can hang out with, because it does go a little long, but it is an absolute blast. If you are a student and you're not going, go.
Yeah, it's definitely worth going. I camped out one of the years. Fun story. Maybe not as fun in practice. Like the camping out thing, nothing happens until like the pit opens at 6 or whatever, and then there's a DJ at 7 to 9, and I was feeling pretty exhausted by the time the DJ was doing whatever the DJ was doing. So the actual show, like the intro is great, the headgear is great. I guess the Jonas Brothers will be something, but yeah, like you said, there's a little lull there in the middle because you can't really hear what's happening. Like you can't hear the show.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're sitting down to watch college game day. Also, it's not. I made the mistake of thinking, I don't know why. It's like a sophomore. I was like, they're going to do so many JMU segments. Talk about the Dukes. Talk about how they match up with the Spiders. No, that's not how it works at all.
Nope, they don't. Especially because this game's at 2 p.m. on ESPN Plus. Probably the only mention of this game, there's a good chance, is the pick.
Yeah, it's going to be entirely like JMU waiver stuff when they do some like JMU segment and then like go into the crowd or whatever. I guess they do the thing where a student kicks.
Oh, they get to kick the field goal.
They kick the field goal, so that'll give you something interesting, I guess, in the middle of the.
That's always fun. Did you watch this last week's college game day?
Yeah, he had the distance. He just
hooked it. But I think the week before or 2 weeks before, they all started chanting, "Let him like re-kick," and McAfee let the kid re-kick. And he didn't like say for half the money. No, McAfee was like, for the same amount of money, if you make the second kick, you win. Nailed it right down the middle. And then this last weekend, was it at Ohio State?
I don't even remember.
Wherever it was this last weekend.
It was like Georgia or something weird.
Georgia. He missed it, and then everyone started chanting re-kick, and then Reese Davis goes over and goes, I'm not letting this happen. Not again.
Yeah, but that's fun. How long is the kick? I think
it's 25 yards, 30 yards.
Yeah, it's something easy, but easy.
Okay,
easy
something easy. We'll set it up at the live podcast and see if you can do it at the live pod.
Something short for a real kicker, so it's like there's a chance the fan could make it if they've kicked a football before.
I think the point McAfee's trying to make, because he always asks the students, and this is like a 20-minute talk on the kicking of a football. I think McAfee always asks them, have you ever made fun of a kicker before for missing a kick this short? And every student's always like, yes. And then they miss it, and he goes, not as easy as you think, huh? Yeah. So I think that's the whole point.
Yeah, well. All right. That'll add a little wrinkle, a fun wrinkle.
I'm very excited for that.
But it's cool. They got game day.
They got game day. And you know what else they got? A rematch with Appalachian State. This week's 3-notched weekly preview. The Mountaineers come to the Happy Valley. Nope. That's wrong.
Sure.
I mixed together Shenandoah Valley and Friendly City.
I like that.
The
Happy Valley. The Friendly Valley.
The Friendly Valley. This week's 3-notched weekly preview, App State comes to town after JMU pulled off one of the greatest comebacks in school history, in NCAA history, maybe a 28-3 comeback against the Mountaineers at the Rock, at Kid Brewer Stadium. These Mountaineers are going to come into this game with revenge on their mind, and they are led by their quarterback, transferred in from a community college, Joey Aguilar, who currently is first in the Sun Belt in EPA per attempt. Sean Clark, does he know he's still coaching for his job? I don't know. They come in on a 3-game win streak after starting conference play 1-2. Their only win was a 41-40, I believe, last-second field goal against ULM. What are you expecting out of this game? And do you think JMU can pull out the win?
I think JMU can definitely win. I'm unsure of what to expect, a little bit terrified. A lot of distractions for JMU. App State can sling it. They're also very good in the secondary. And that sort of feels like the recipe to hang with JMU, right?
Yeah.
Throw the ball well, stop the pass. And they do that well. Interesting, App State, 10 losses since the start of last season, 9 of them by 1 possession. So they rarely get blown out. The one quote-unquote blowout was a 12-point loss to Texas State last year, which is sort of inexplicable to lose to that Texas State team by double digits. But they've hung in there with pretty much everyone. UNC, Wyoming, both those on the road were 1-score losses. They had chances to win both of those games. Mountaineers are pretty good. It's sort of the flip side of JMU, where JMU's done really well in those 1-possession games. App State has not, but they have put themselves in a decent number of 1-possession games against good teams. I think it's going to be tough. I think it'll be competitive. And if you're JMU, it's going to be tough offensively. You have to figure out, can you throw on the Mountaineer secondary? And if you can't, can you finally get something going on the ground? I do think the environment, the crowd is going to play a pretty huge factor and give JMU the edge there. I think the Dukes win, but I think it'll be a competitive one.
Yeah, this is a game that I really wish we still had Jalen Green for. It's an Appalachian State offensive line that allows pressure on 31% of dropbacks, one of the higher rates, I believe it's 7th in the Sun Belt. So right around the middle of the pack. So it's not an elite offensive line. It's not absolutely abysmal like ODU's, but it's an offensive line where you can get to Aguilar. You can push him off the spot. So Kamara is going to have a big game. Carpenter up in the interior is going to have a big game. And these guys that are kind of filling in for Jalen Green are going to have to be higher than replacement level. App State is going to throw it, like you said. Aguilar, one of the better quarterbacks in the Sun Belt. They are one of the best teams in the nation in pass success rate. They're 13th in the country. They have a successful pass, which is defined by 50% or more of yards needed for a first down on 1st and 2nd. And on 3rd and 4th, it's 100% of the yards you need for a first down. So App State does that at a very high rate. They move the ball very well, but it's against a JMU secondary that has gotten a lot better as of late. They are 18th in the nation in pass success rate allowed. So while App State matches up well against JMU, the numbers tell me that JMU then matches up really well against App State. I think this is a close, low-scoring game where we might see the defenses shine a lot more than the offenses, even though the offenses are coming into it with the gaudy numbers. Aguilar, over his last 3, saw what McLeod did, barely got one-upped. Joey Aguilar has thrown for 875 pass yards the last 3 games, with 10 touchdowns and another 107 rush yards.
He's been really, really good. I think he's got, it's like 17 touchdown passes and 4 interceptions in conference play, something like that. He's been averaging close to 300 yards a game in conference play. He's been really, really good. And he was not the starter for App State to start this year. They had an injury.
It's a QB2 battle.
QB2, injury in the first game. He looked really great when he came in and sort of has taken over from there, and deservingly so. So I'm excited to watch this one. Both quarterbacks really, really good. I think JMU will pull away late and end up making it maybe look a little bit more lopsided than it was during the game. That's sort of my take. But I think especially early on, I would anticipate a pretty competitive, fun game.
Yeah, Aguilar doesn't turn it over a lot. He's averages 0.7 interceptions per game. So can the secondary, which hasn't necessarily been the best at forcing turnovers in terms of interceptions, can they get that going on Saturday? And like I said before, this is a battle where the movable object meets the stoppable force. Can one of them do something they haven't been able to do all season? Maybe, maybe not.
Who knows?
Yeah, there we go.
Who could say?
All right. That takes us to everyone's favorite segment. It's News or Snooze time, presented by Christopher William Jewelers. Bennett will give me 3 quotes. I'll decide if they are newsworthy or snooze-worthy. We should have a jam-packed episode with 3 fantastic quotes, as we had a Cignetti press conference just a few hours ago from recording. It's a big weekend. A lot of quotes from a lot of news outlets. You ready?
I am.
Hit me.
All right, first quote from Kurt Cignetti. We don't get a free touchdown because game day's coming. Or like when you were a little kid and you went to a 7-Eleven and bought 1 Slurpee and got 1 free. There's no giveaways here.
Okay.
He must have loved Slurpees. Because that
but
analogy was very strange.
Talk about a free buzz marketing for 7-Eleven there. All right. Maybe Cignetti's getting a little kickback NIL deal from 7-Eleven, and that's why he stayed in the Harrisonburg area for so long now.
Yeah, I know. That was something. No free ads, Kurt, but he did one anyway. All right.
No free ads. Only Christopher William Jewelers around here.
Only CWJ, please. Kurt Cignetti, another one here. He was asked because last year, right, they beat Coastal Carolina in the last game and very quickly called themselves the Kings of the East. Like they had signs prepared for if they were to win that game, be the Kings of the East. He asked if they would do it again if they clinch, which they can do. They can clinch the East with a win against App State. And he said, I think that was a first-year thing where everybody understood that it was absolutely our last football game.
Is Kurt Cignetti leaving the door open? I think it's a little newsworthy. I don't think it's 100% newsworthy. To me, this feels like his common sense will prevail quote. It's a promising quote, but I think JMU will figure out about the NCAA's ruling when the public finds out about the NCAA ruling. I don't think he knows like some back channels where he knows that they're going to approve it here in 3 days and 72 hours. I think he's just is maybe not hopelessly optimistic, but he's optimistic. Also for him, I would be optimistic too, because there's a lot of money on the table waiting for him if they become eligible.
Great work there by Daniel Merriman, who reported on that.
Yeah, I think over $150,000, $200,000,
right
something
in
like
that
that
range. Yeah,
a lot of money. So for him, I don't blame him for being optimistic about the odds of JMU getting the waiver. And who knows? Maybe it does happen. Maybe it does.
That's exactly right. I'm trying to find the exact.
Thanks, Bennett.
trying to find this exact quote. My apologies. I wanted to do a Harbaugh one, but then I haven't written it down. But essentially,
his America's team quote. No, Harbaugh. We're America's team.
That is the quote. Yeah, he called Michigan. He said they should be America's team because of the adversity and the criticism they've had to deal with this year, which is an electric quote.
Does Harbaugh know he's the reason for all of the adversity his team has had to face?
I guess he also had like a raspy voice, and somebody must have asked him about it, and he said he was going to do some push-ups and eat an apple, and like he's the brick wall that, or the iron wall that viruses like bang against and die, or something crazy.
You
So
know,
he's a guy.
I question why he failed in the NFL. And then he has quotes like that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, imagine him in a National Football League locker room. Hey, coach, why'd we do two-a-days? Because I'm an iron wall and practice just bounces off of me.
He did. He went back on his take about chicken though, which he said he didn't used to eat because it was a nervous
scared bird. Yeah.
Yeah. But now he's saying it actually produces a lot in terms of eggs and meat and everything. And he's really turned around on chicken.
Well, that's a good thing. Hopefully he'll turn around on Michigan being America's team, because that's already claimed by James Madison University in what are some calling the Happy Valley.
That's right. Those are my my three little quotes. But the other thing I would like to bring up now, sort of that late arriving news. What do we think about JMU hearing back from the NCAA possibly this week, according to Pete Thamel of what he's ESPN now, I believe.
So, yeah, he is of ESPN now. Chad Nicely at the start of our stream said, I can't imagine the NCAA wants 3 hours of game day with signs and commentary just destroying them the entire time. I've always kind of dismissed this idea. But is this like, as a beat writer who kind of covered NCAA stuff happenings, did you ever really cover a waiver request, like in terms of eligibility or anything like that?
No.
Okay, so we both are going into this with no real idea of what we're talking about. But do you think that holds up? Do you think the NCAA, because JMU has checked every box, but do you think now the NCAA sees that and they're also like, okay, we don't want bad PR for 3 hours on the premier pregame show? Like, is that a real thing that's going through the NCAA's mind?
I actually did cover a waiver thing that I had forgotten about, but there was an Indiana transfer running back who transferred to Virginia to be closer to home. I think there was a family member maybe that was sick or something. Took him a while to give the waiver. And I think Virginia turned up the heat a little bit and really complained. It was like, this is absurd. And then they did sort of relent, but they're super slow about that kind of stuff from what I've seen. And obviously clearly here. So doing it in a timely manner is good. For like my actual job, I wrote a story about Michigan and JMU and like how their eligibility impacts like sports betting odds makers. And when I was talking with the NCAA, they said that it had to go through like 4 committees had to give input before a decision was reached on the new waiver request. Basically, I don't know like how much input they're really actually going to give, right? Like in a week, like are all those committee members who also have other jobs giving a lot of input? Or is there an element of just like, give it to them? They're 10-0, playing well. They have the facilities, just change it. Or the flip side would be, don't, because we already made this decision, like tell them to shut up. I don't know which side they would lean toward.
How easy though would it be for the NCAA just to save face at this point? Because if you double down, you are the enemy. You are hated by so many people. Like, how easy is it to be like, we made a mistake, we understand. Yes, here's the waiver.
So do you give it to JMU and then deny Tarleton State, or are you giving it to Tarleton State?
I don't know Tarleton State's like setup. Now, if they've like,
they're 8-3 in the FCS. Sam Herder was saying they're still probably like maybe outside the bubble picture because they don't have any ranked wins at the FCS level. So they might not even make the playoffs if they got the waiver.
I would, sure, give it to them. I don't really care. Like, I think the rule's kind of stupid and antiquated, especially now with like the change in the cost to make the jump from FCS to FBS, everything involved in it. I think this is a really stupid rule that serves no purpose. And especially for the impact it has on the student athletes, where is the same case for Tarleton State. These are the same student athletes that went through COVID. Like, they've had a weird experience.
I actually think it would add credibility to the waiver process to grant one or both of them too, right?
Or even add credibility by granting one but not the other.
Not the other, yeah, where it's like, hey, Tarleton State, like you're not even like, well, I don't know, because I guess you shouldn't be going based off of on-field results, really. The waiver should be granted based off of like if you were ready to go in terms of like facilities and attendance and all that stuff. JMU's checked every box. They're performing like a Power 5 team. They're hosting game day. They're the best group of 5 team. Like if you watch Tulane over the last month, like no, like JMU should be ranked higher at this point in the, I guess, what did they do the rankings already tonight? I don't know what they look like or where Tulane was, but they should get the waiver. They should have the waiver. It would be nice if they gave it to them. And yeah, I would agree. If they do it this week and like 2 days before game day, you deny a waiver.
That's bad.
It's going to be a nightmare for the NCAA for the next few days.
A part of it too that I don't know if we're talking a lot about is the Pat McAfee show being on Friday. Apparently Signetti's going to be on for an hour, but I love Pat McAfee. I might be in the minority in that. I watch his show often. I enjoy kind of his general vibe. He's a loose cannon though. If he doesn't like the NCAA, he's going to go on his show for 3 hours on Friday and just destroy them. And then he's going to go on the game day show for another 3 hours on Saturday and just continuously make fun of them and just go after them. And he'll get Herb Street to do it too, because him and Herb are friends. Where like they'll go in on the NCAA and talk about the stupidity of the rules. They might even call in Matt Berry.
That would be something. I think, it would be nice to give him the waiver. It would also be so jarring to get the waiver on like later in the week
and lose.
Have game day and then have to beat like your biggest rival that's playing really good football with like pretty much nothing. If you get the waiver, the Sun Belt's going to let you play in the Sun Belt Championship, which puts App State's chances pretty low then to get into the game. They would have truly nothing to lose. Already bowl eligible, 6-4, probably going to finish like second or third in the conference. That's terrifying. It'd be great, but it would make that game pretty fascinating.
Well, they have 2 conference losses. So yeah, App State would have to, it would be a must win for App, also with nothing to lose. Yeah. And they would also need Coastal to beat us.
Yeah, so it's like you're probably not thinking you're going to win the East, but you're fighting for that slim hope, and then also just trying to ruin JMU's special season after they had that huge comeback last year. It would be a lot of revenge factors going on.
It would. Speaking of revenge factors, I'm trying to bounce back. I think I had another bad week. I didn't tally the results yet, but it's time for the Sun Belt Weekly Pick'em. Are you ready, Bennett?
I'm always ready. I feel like I still have the lead. I don't know how true that is, but I believe it to be true.
I'm pretty sure I had a bad week. I have to count the numbers. It's in one of my notebooks around here, but we'll go with this week. You like the music?
Yeah.
All right. We'll go this week. ULM opens things up with a fantastic game against one of their biggest rivals, Ole Miss.
The Fighting Isaac Ukwus. I think that Ole Miss will win this game. They're a 37-point favorite, which is what gives me belief in them.
I love how he just picked this straight up and not against the spread.
Me too. It's like, look at how good our records are. 40-point favorites.
Although ULM's record is 2-8. Look how bad our record is.
Yeah,
Coastal Army.
Coastal only a 4-point favorite here. Army coming off, I think, a decent stretch of football. They've won 2 in a row. They beat Air Force and Holy Cross. Holy Cross. Sneaky good FCS team.
Holy Cross.
I'll say Coastal, but I'm a little worried in this one.
You did take Army, I believe, to beat Coastal last year, and it didn't come through.
Yeah, Coastal's a scrappy group.
I'm going to give it to Coastal as well here. This would be a good spot for me to fade you and go Army and try to get a game back, but I don't want to lose a game, and I think this is a game that is very much in the balance. Southern Miss, Mississippi State. Mississippi State, 14-point favorites after firing their coach. They take on an abysmal Southern Miss team out of Starkville, Mississippi.
They'll have Jamie Chadwell soon enough, Photoshop or not. They'll get him. I would honestly not have been surprised if that was real. It's not real, but it would have been pretty cool.
It's a real bummer that it's not real.
It's one that was like believable enough that he'd be like doing that. Yeah. Anyway, I like Mississippi State to win this one, and they'll get Jamie Chadwell soon.
Yep, I agree. Texas State, Arkansas State. Texas State, a 3.5-point road favorite against the Fighting. Crap, what's his name? Butch Jones?
Yeah.
The Fighting Butch Joneses. I'm going to go Arkansas State here.
I'll go Texas State. I'm not ready to live in a world where the Arkansas State of the first 2 weeks of the year becomes bowl eligible.
The Red Wolves. I know you forgot their mascot there.
What did I say?
You said You said the Arkansas State after the first.
I wasn't even thinking of
Okay.
a mascot. I don't know why I said the.
Well, Arkansas State, they're 5-5, fighting for bowl eligibility. Texas State, after a fantastic start, has really faded. Not faded. They're a lot
They're
better.
chokers. They're chokers. They've faded.
They're a
I'm
lot better
disappointed
than
in them.
Okay, all right. I'm trying to.
I want to put
bit.
it out there that they were getting all this hype, and they're like, oh, GJ Kinney, like, are they elite? No. Now they're barely favored against Arkansas State. The Red Wolves.
All right, Louisiana, Troy. I'm taking Troy.
Troy. The West kind of sucks. Like, not to be rude to the West, but like Troy's got some of these games, and it's like, wow, look at how well they're playing, and they are. Troy's very good, but oh my God, the West is garbage.
Texas State, Arkansas State, they're miss. That's terrible. Like that.
Yeah,
that's
bad.
That's free wins. Over on the East, you got Marshall, South Alabama, ODU, Georgia Southern, Georgia State, Appalachian. Like everyone in the East
South
could
Alabama.
win the West. What?
I heard of South Alabama in there.
Yeah, I did. I snuck them in there.
They're a East team.
Oh, my bad.
That's the thing though. Troy and South Alabama play like East teams. They should just go to the East.
Imagine how bad the West would be. Here's my take.
ODU
Any
could switch.
team in the East would win the West.
Troy's better than. I love that take.
Let's get the Troy boys on here. And yeah,
that's a good take. We got to talk to the Troy boys soon about their thoughts if they want a rematch.
yeah. Was it Gary emailed us and gave us that idea? That's a fantastic idea.
Yeah.
Marshall, South Alabama, 2 East teams meet.
2 East teams. I like South Alabama here. Favored by like 10, which doesn't make sense to me. But
Does Marshall suck?
They won last week, but yes. Yeah, Marshall sucks.
I'm going to go South Alabama too because I was looking at quarterback numbers when I was kind of researching how good Joey Aguilar was. Cam Fancher's very bad. I don't think this is I don't think this is an indictment on Huff's coaching ability. I think this is an indictment on the fact that they have Cam Fancher starting.
I think they benched him.
They had him starting for 8 of their 10 games this season.
Yeah, they beat Georgia Southern like 38-33. I want to say he was benched for that.
That would make sense. ODU, Georgia Southern a 6-point home favorite in Statesboro.
I went on Twitter and I talked a lot of trash about the Liberty Flames prior to that game against ODU. And Ricky Ronnie's group goes out there and just poops all over themselves.
Ricky Rain would be such a better name.
Well, maybe we call them that until they make a bowl game, until they become bowl eligible.
I like that. Okay, Ricky Rain's group.
Yeah, Ricky Rain's group. I'm picking Georgia Southern mostly out of spite.
I'm picking Georgia Southern because they are the better football team.
That's fair.
I think ODU has flashes. I just don't think they have the talent to play a full 60 minutes.
No.
They have Jason Henderson, who, if I'm not mistaken, is on pace for 5,000 tackles this year.
Yeah, that's right.
There's no way that ODU's offense can keep up with Georgia Southern. Sorry, I was reading a comment on
Troy boys are bitter about losing to JMU. Probably.
Georgia State, LSU. Troy, it's hard to get to Troy, Alabama when you wake up in Troy, Alabama. Georgia State, LSU. Sean Elliott, after the JMU game, said his team was never going to play like that again. Little did he know that 1 week later, in the same place, they would play that way again and would get blown out by App State after your boy went on an Iowa radio show and praised Georgia State.
The same score, right?
It wasn't good. It was
42-14 again.
It was really bad. And now they play LSU.
Frauds.
This is a Georgia State team that got bowl eligibility and then is going to be outscored by a combined 150 points over the next 3 weeks.
So bad. Jane Daniels going to like throw for 400 yards and run for another 400. Never going to happen again. That'll never happen to my team again, except for literally 7 days later by the exact same score.
And then 14 days later. Heck, Vad Lee's record of 250 and 250 is in jeopardy in this game.
He did something crazy last week at like 300 passing and 200 rushing or something absurd. He's good.
That didn't break the record, though. That didn't break the Vadley record, baby. All right. That's this week's Sunbelt Weekly Pick'em. Keep up to date with all of the weekly Pick'ems happenings over on our Instagram, JMU Sports News. We post every single week what the picks are, and we keep them updated over there. And yeah, that will end the football segment. So thank you guys so much for tuning into JMU football. Now to the part that we all care about. Where's a good song for this one? Give me 1 second. This one. Ladies and gentlemen, after a 3-0 start, your JMU men's basketball team is ranked for the first time in program history. James Madison finds its way into the AP Top 25, baby!
Byington and the boys.
Oh, and Terrence Edwards, AP Player of the Week, baby. This is what we've been waiting for. Let's go.
Sweet 16, here we come.
National championship. I don't set my sights for failure. This is what we do. We win.
The standard.
Soccer's dancing with an at-large. Women's soccer got an at-large. All we do is win in Harrisonburg.
The standard is the standard.
Control the controllables. Lock the gates. All right. So JMU men's basketball is ranked.
Yeah. Wow. 24th in the AP poll.
Whew.
First time in program history they've ever been ranked.
Were you shocked by that? Because I was a little
people
shocked.
talked about them in the 80s like they were good. Now I learned they've never ranked. All these old heads talking about the golden era and the electric zoo. No, this is the golden era. This is the electric zoo.
Damn right. Do you want some music while you go on this rant?
No. I don't have too much of a rant. I'm just excited. They're playing well. They beat Howard 107-86. The Kent State game, I guess that was after we last recorded.
Yeah. It was during our
That was crazy.
No, it wasn't during our recording.
No, that was the Toledo collapse.
Yeah.
I'll talk about that later. But the comeback, unbelievable. They scored 5 points in 3.8 seconds.
Has that ever been done before? I know it has.
No.
I don't think so.
No. Not in any sport, not even football. No one's ever done it. Basically a touchdown in 3.8 seconds.
That was insane, though.
It was insane. Great win over Kent State, which is a pretty good team. And they blew out Howard. They got a great collection of wins. They're playing very well. I'm impressed. They're deep. They're good.
Can I workshop a take with you live on this podcast?
Oh,
you can tell me it's stupid. Is the Howard win the most impressive?
No. But it was
like Michigan State's the best. Michigan State's the best.
Okay.
Kent State, the most fun, unlikely, exciting game. Get that Pale Fire class out of here.
Oh, sorry.
But is Howard's more impressive? So you're coming off of two extremely emotional games that you've played more than the allotted 40 minutes. Or I guess Michigan State, they won in overtime.
No, it's overtime, yeah.
Silly me, I forgot. How could I already forget that? But you've played these two highly emotional games over 40 minutes. You return home against a Howard team that isn't great, but isn't terrible. They gave Georgia Tech all they could handle. I believe they're 225 in the KenPom, which is what JMU was hovering around when Byington took over in Byington's first year. Now, and then they went and they shot 53% from the floor, 55% from three on tired legs. And after a slow start, just absolutely boat raced the Bison. Maybe it's not the most impressive win. Maybe I'm being a little crazy with that take. But that game told me that this team is for real.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think Michigan State to me was still my favorite.
I'm not saying Howard was my favorite win. I didn't watch the Howard game. I watched highlights of the Howard game.
You telling me this is the most impressive game? You didn't watch it? Get out of here. No, they played really well. They sort of showed like over a 5 or 10 minute stretch when they pulled away that they're like a pretty solid basketball team. And yeah, I expected honestly that they'd have like a slog close game just because
Yeah.
of everything they had accomplished the week prior, the few days prior. They're good. They play a Radford team on Friday. I can't wait for that game. But I think Bickerstaff is legit. Like it's the first big they've had under Byington that's like
Can play like a big.
game changer. Yeah, can play like a big and is like physically as large as you'd like him to be. Wooden is really good. Like his offensive game is so good.
You know the memes? I'm sorry, I wasn't familiar with your game.
Yeah.
That was me with Wooden.
Yeah. And then of course Terrence Edwards. He's like just very, very good. Best player on the team. Michael Green's awesome. I think Brown's done some nice things. Carey.
Jalen Carey's a dog.
Yeah, he is. And then Quincy Allen was phenomenal against Howard. He had multiple dunks, super athletic. So like they've got a lot of guys that they can build around and be really good with. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to say 31-0 is on the table, but anything less than that, I feel like Byington's on the hot seat, right? Like you got the pieces. If you can't run the table, Signetti's running the table, right? Other people are running the table right now.
That's Wooden had a game high 22. Michael Green had 17 on 5 for 8 from 3. Friedel went 2 for 2 with 8 points, which is kind of a shame because he had 5 points in 3.8 seconds the previous game. So the fact he only had 8 points in 22 minutes, kind of off of his pace that he set the previous game. But I'll let that pass. The only person to shoot a 3 and not make a 3 was Xavier Brown, who went 0 for 3 from deep. Everyone else, Holland Smith, who got 2 minutes, went 1 for 1 from deep. Raekwon Horton. Raekwon Horton also went 0 for 1.
Smith's 3 late was clutch to get him back into a 20-point win.
Kind of like Matthew Urbach's buzzer beater at the shot clock. Something we'll always remember. I think a Holman Smith garbage time 3 is something we also will always remember.
I will always remember the Holman Smith 3. I don't know. I'm really high on them. They feel like they go like 8 to 10 deep. They're all very good. When was the last time we had an actual big? Dwight Wilson was like kind of there, but he hadn't quite gotten to the level that Bickerstaff is at.
Yeah. So, he did when he got to Ohio.
Yeah.
And they upset UVA in the first round of the men's basketball tournament.
Shout out
COVID. Shout out COVID. That was the last time I think we had an actual big. Since then, they've been trying to run with like this lean shooting group who turns the ball over at a high clip and can't defend the paint. But
yeah, I mean, at no point, like, not offensive at all, but like Alonzo Sulite wasn't going for 21 and 14 against Michigan State. You know what I mean? Like Bickerstaff's just a different level of talent and size and ability, and he played in the ACC for a couple of years, what I think makes it him more comfortable.
I do think we just didn't wait long enough to see Joel Mensah really blossom into the big that he could have been. But other than that,
he's a Sunbelt Player of the Year type of guy. If you watched his tape, and
I'm sorry, I wasn't familiar with your game.
And by tape, I mean like we saw his height on a roster and went, oh my effing God.
Well, we saw his height, and then we saw transfer San Diego State. Oh my God, related to the other Mensah, who's a baller. Turns out they're just from the same city and have the same last name. And we're not related. And that was on me.
Yeah. But hey, other than that, they've had a lot of bigs over the years, allegedly. Just none since we followed the team.
Yeah, exactly.
Because Bickerstaff is a different level of big. They have a lot of athleticism. Terrence Edwards is just like very good and like probably should be playing on a power conference team. So it's a good group. They have a lot of games left against crummy teams, so they should rack up a bunch of wins. And then hopefully you play well at the last week of the season and you can get in the NCAA tournament.
You mentioned Quincy Allen, 11 minutes, 13 points, 5 for 5, 1 for 1 from deep, 2 for 2 at the free throw line with 2 rebounds, but did get 4 fouls.
He was getting his. I like that.
Next up, it's Radford, a Radford team that comes in with upset on their mind. They check in at number 155 in KenPom, but at this time of year, KenPom's always kind of tough to figure out because the preseason expectations still weighing heavily on with everything. I think at this time last year, we all knew UNC wasn't the best team in the nation. KenPom still had them as like a top 10 team. Currently, Ken Palm projects an 8-point JMU win. They're going to be playing VCU tomorrow, Wednesday, before they travel to Harrisonburg to take on JMU. Last season, the Highlanders won 21 games. They made a run in the CBI. I want you to take a guess. If you don't already, do you know who they lost to in the CBI?
I just saw it. Yeah.
No. The Fighting Ron Sanchez's.
Yeah, Charlotte. They won that. That's a huge win for Charlotte, which they built upon by Sanchez. What's he doing there now?
He's an assistant at UVA.
What happened to that program? They lose their SID. They lose their coach. Everything's going crazy.
All-time series, JMU leads 15-4. Radford has never won at James Madison, but Radford has never had a sophomore guard named Kenyon Giles. Big South all-freshman team. He's averaging 17 points per game this season. Is there any chance that you think Radford can upset JMU and pick up the ranked win early on in the season? Is this a game that JMU should expect to win?
You'd like to win it at home and have a pretty good crowd. I think they'll have a good crowd because of game day and everything the next day. But Radford's not bad. They played Carolina pretty well, actually, in the first game of the year. Ended up losing by 16, but I thought they played well. Then they beat Marshall. Marshall's supposed to be respectable in the Sun Belt. Beat them on a neutral floor. So we'll see what they do against VCU, but I think Radford's actually fairly competitive.
That's a great point about UNC, because this is a James Madison team that a year ago, if they hit all of their shots, would have beaten UNC.
It's actually a similar situation with Radford.
Is it
actually? Looking at it,
like
5 of 21 from 3? So
okay,
I mean,
so it actually kind of is. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. If they go 18 of 21 from 3, they boat race the Tar Heels.
I hate you. We'll be in attendance for this game after the live podcast, which everyone should come hang out with us at 5 p.m. over at the Three Notch Valley Collab House. We'll wrap up at around 6 and then head over to the AUBC, the Atlantic Union Bank Center, for this game. We'll be rolling deep. I got 9 tickets on my phone for this game. All for myself.
I just love the rolling deep. Like we're bringing a crew. So it's either, if you show up, you better want to get rowdy because we got 9 tickets.
Will I sneak some Three Notch beer into this game? No, I won't have to, because they sell it at the Atlantic Union Bank Center.
This game's going to be electric. This is one that if you win it, changes everything.
You own Virginia.
Then you can start saying you own Virginia if you beat Radford.
Unless VCU beats Radford, because then we both have a 1-0 record against Virginia teams.
Right. But the rest of the schedule is pretty manageable. Here's my question. When do you think they lose their first game?
8 dates. I do have 8 dates. That's what we're bringing. 8 dates, baby. Each one sits in a separate section. I'm glad.
I gotta go get a snack.
I'm so glad Eva does not listen to the podcast. What was your question? Sorry. Oh, we didn't pick JMU in the Sunbelt Weekly Pick'em.
Oh, shoot. That's embarrassing.
JMU App State. JMU wins 31-28.
I've got 38-17, which goes against everything I said in the preview, but we'll stick with it. When is the first game that JMU men's basketball loses this year? If they do lose one.
When they lose one, let me check. Is this the Murray State? Remember like the 2012 Murray State team?
People, I saw like Matt Norlander was like, this could be this year's FAU. It was like November 10th. And I'm like, just breathe for a second. Like, this could be a Final Four team. Like, what do you, no, calm down.
Also, the draw FAU got was like so favorable for them to make that. No,
they played Fairleigh Dickinson in the second round instead of Purdue.
So remember, like, Ken Palm's been kind of fluctuating with when their first loss would happen. I think at one point, it said ODU was going to be their first loss. And
oh my God, it has them winning every game right now.
Yeah, what I was going to say.
I got to tweet that.
Ken Palm officially has JMU winning every game this season. The 2 games I would circle for JMU to lose first is Radford. Radford.
I'll tweet it after the podcast.
ODU. I'm also not shocked if they just like go and lose to Southern Illinois after like a big win against Radford.
Yeah,
like, I think
they don't have 2 on there. that could be
2
hard.
losses.
No, they don't have the game. They might play Fresno State after the Southern Illinois game. And Fresno State's decent. And then they play a MAC team on like the 10th that we just don't know what the team is yet.
Yeah, so like it could. I think JMU, best case scenario, loses 5 games this season.
I don't think they're going to lose based off of what
Okay.
I've just seen from Ken Palm.
Okay. Cool,
I think
cool.
their first loss will be the road game against Old Dominion on the 9th.
Do you want to just like lament about this team really quick while I do something really important?
Yeah, sure. Are you doing it now?
Yeah.
So essentially, Ken Palm has them winning every game, but that doesn't actually mean they're going to go undefeated, folks, because there's this little thing called probability that a lot of people don't fully understand. And they do this with FPI too. They do this with football and basketball. They see that a team is favored to win a game and they go, oh, something predicts them to win the game. So their actual projected record on Ken Palm is 23-6. That doesn't include 2 games that'll come on there. That sounds about right to me. The chance of an unbeaten record right now in the 29 games listed is 0.05%, according to Ken Palm. So the chances they actually win out are pretty low. But then again, Mark Byington believes in his team.
All right. Are you ready to get on front and to the front of this hype train? This isn't train noises. Wait. You ready to get in front of this hype train? Honk, honk. All right, so actually, that's a good train. That's a good train noise. Is it still sharing the audio?
No, it stopped.
So what does it feel like for you as a fan? And I'll answer too. Experiencing this, like being in the line, it's really cool for football, but for me, basketball feels like kind of even cooler. After what for you, 9 years of slugging through terrible teams, me 8 years for the fans of JMU basketball listening, the listeners, I mean, longer, maybe shorter, but like it's been a long time.
Sort of a standard is the standard situation for me where I expect it. No, I would say that I'm shocked, truly floored that they won the first 2 games. Like the way they beat Kent State was absurd at the end. Beating Michigan State is insane to me. The fact that they're 3-0 is wild. Yeah, I'm all over it because they got through what I think are the 2 hardest tests of the season. So you're looking at like maybe 25 plus wins in a possible NCAA tournament berth when they've just kind of sucked like every year. Byington has made them competent, but they've been pretty bad at times, like really, really bad at
even
times.
under Byington.
They've had some bad losses under Byington, right? Valpo
Elon in this CAA tournament.
Where they blew a big lead. What about you? But I'm pretty stoked about basketball.
Feels awesome. Like slugging through that. And I know some people were like, only 8 years. I've been doing this for 15. Good on you. Because you kept with it. Like
you're old.
Exactly. JMU was one of the worst teams in college basketball less than 5 years ago.
And we've been through a lot as fans. Like the softball team only won, 2 Women's College World Series games. The lacrosse team only won 1 national title. The football team only won 1 national title. And they have 3 FBS losses. Like
we've experienced hardship. Yeah, we know what it means to be. To me, that's the icing on this cake, though. Like this athletic department has been amazing for the past 8 years, and men's basketball has been kind of the black eye on it, where they just have been underperforming and underperforming and underperforming and underperforming and underperforming. And finally, it feels like they've broken through. They got the right transfer class. They've pushed all the right buttons. They've pulled the right levers, and it's just really exciting.
And now, like, people talk about the athletic department differently, where like diehard fans knew like everything like except men's basketball was doing pretty well. And now that they had that men's basketball success, there's all this talk of like, oh, and the soccer teams are also good. Like national people are sort of noticing that they're good across the board because the men's basketball team pulled off 2 upsets.
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah.
But all right, that brings us to a quick women's basketball update. They blew a massive lead against Toledo, but then they backed it up with a huge win against Xavier, but Xavier is not necessarily all that great.
Xavier sucks.
I think this team is still, it doesn't really impact my thoughts on this team.
No, but I want to rag on them slightly for the Toledo loss. Not too hard. I just think that, like, if the men's team did this, we'd be like, what the heck? Or if the football team did this, we'd be like, what the heck? They led by 20 against a good mid-major. Toledo is a good mid-major, but they led by 20 at home and lost by 11. That's super disappointing. Like, I found that incredibly disappointing.
And they've done that a few times under Coach O.
It's a tough one. I'm not sort of same thoughts you have, not worried about like the long-term outlook this season, but that's a tough one. Would have been pretty good for the at-large resume. And I also don't want to hear this stuff of like Toledo's like a top 20 team. They played Gonzaga their next game and lost by 21. Gonzaga's good, but they're not receiving votes or ranked. They're just outside that, and they lost by 21.
And JMU led by 20.
It's not like they led South Carolina or Iowa by 20, like very fluky. They could have finished the game. They're at home. Toledo is good, but they're a mid-major. That's a winnable game.
Yeah. So that's the women's basketball update.
Also, how is there not an update on the Heaven Bristow waiver from the NCAA? Like, how do you not give a decision before the season starts on her waiver?
I'm sorry. Which waiver do you want first? Football or Heaven Bristow?
I want them in a bunch. I would like them both now in a bunch where it's like you got the football waiver, you got Heaven Bristow's waiver. Jalen Green can come back for another year if he wants. Todd Centeio can come back if he wants. Who else? Jimmy Moreland can come back if he wants. Chris Thornton can come back if he wants. Matt Lewis can come back if he wants for basketball. Chase DeLauder can come back. Raven Green can come back.
Well, the DeLauder, never mind.
I don't know.
Technically, DeLauder like left after his junior year.
Yeah, well, he can come back now.
Okay.
He has a waiver to stay.
Volleyball, they're number 24 in the RPI. They're looking good to potentially get an at-large if they don't win the Sun Belt tournament, and they've kind of finished the season not that strong. I believe they got swept about 3 weeks ago after we came on and were like hyping them up about not losing in like over a year. Lost the weekend against Coastal Carolina, and then they lost their regular season finale.
Yeah, so 4 conference losses now, but they're still pretty competitive. We'll see what they do in the conference tournament, which starts on Friday.
Yes, and big time stuff. Men's soccer is dancing. So women's soccer got an at-large bid. Men's soccer got an at-large bid. I will say men's soccer, their 8-4-5 record, that number 1 win against UCF, holding up a lot of weight. They were 38th in the RPI, so they literally just snuck into that at-large bid. They're getting Pitt on the road on Thursday.
Yeah.
And that brings us to listener questions.
Okay, there's a lot of them. I'm going to fire these at you.
Okay. Thank you for doing this because my Wi-Fi cannot hold up a Twitter tab and this tab.
Perfect. John Butler, America's question of the day. Was the picture of Jamie Chadwell posting from Mississippi State posted by Not Kurt Signetti real or not?
Fake. It was fake. Confirmed.
It was fake, but that's sad. I wanted to believe it for a while.
I did believe it for a while.
Okay. For me too. Celsior. W. Excelsior. There's always talk about the potential for Kurt Signetti to get lured away, but what about Byington if the men win the Sun Belt this season?
Yes. Both of them. So, like, with not to overreact or anything, but that is kind of one of my shticks. In the next 12 months, JMU can be hiring a new athletic director, football coach, and men's basketball coach. There is a high likelihood that JMU sports look completely different this time next year and not for better.
Yeah, there's a question about that. So that'll be a good follow-up here from Don Alexander at JMU JUCO 1. The question is it likely that with our success, we'll have to replace not only Jeff Bourne, but also Signetti and Byington? You sort of just answered that. If so, who makes the coaching selection? Is it still Jeff Bourne? That's a great question.
It depends on when the hiring away goes. Depends on probably how involved Bourne wants to be and how involved the new athletic director they hire wants to let Bourne be. But I imagine Bourne, once he retires, will want to kind of step away and not have his hands involved in that. I will say I'm fairly certain JMU outsources kind of the initial headhunting part of it,
Yeah.
where they get kind of like a short list. And whatever headhunting company they use has done a great job at putting together some really good short lists. But that athletic director hire is going to be the most important hire in JMU sports history. And it's not close, because that athletic director, within the first 12 to 24 months of becoming the athletic director, is going to have to hire a new men's basketball coach and a new football coach.
See, that's what's interesting, though. If they stick to their spring timeline, you got to hire the football coach before you have a new AD, right? So if Signetti leaves in December or January, you don't have a new AD. You got to get somebody in for recruiting and like spring ball. Then
So Bourne would be involved, yes.
Well, then the new AD, unless you have like an idea, and you probably don't if you have the spring timeline, is going to get a new football coach handed to him who he didn't hire. That's, if you're a coach also, I don't want to sign up for that.
Because if you lose 4 games, you're out.
Well, yeah, you're not that person's like pick. So I think that's actually pretty interesting. I think with basketball, it would be late enough that they could have a new AD in place that the new AD would pick.
Yeah.
But
that's a really good point.
The
football one's scary.
The timing would be rough.
So I wonder if Bourne will try and just like,
I wonder if do you expedite it? Do you try to get somebody faster and say, hey, we know we said this spring, but.
Or does Signetti have that rapport with Bourne where if he gets another offer, he brings it to Bourne and says, like, I'm being offered this. Can you match it?
They can't match like Power 5 though.
Yeah.
But they might raise him. There was another question in here. Let me see if I can find it that sort of strings this all together here. Don't worry, I'll find it.
I'm not worrying. I trust your ability.
Because I should have bumped it in a different area. But yeah, Joe McCoy, Mondo Life. What's the financial infrastructure JMU has in place to keep Signetti, maybe Jordan McLeod, and other star players?
So Jordan McLeod would be the Montpelier Collective.
Yeah.
With NIL things and more than just the Montpelier Collective, however the NIL situation works for JMU. Montpelier Collective, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Bennett, you donate to the Montpelier Collective, they then find NIL deals and also kind of pay the student athlete themselves through like community service things that they have the student athletes do, and then essentially they pay them. Other NIL deals is Charlie Obaugh paying Jordan McLeod $5,000 for 5 commercials. That's the way that they can keep Jordan McLeod. It's how can the local businesses come together and find ways to put money in his pocket, and how can the Montpelier Collective decide to pay for Jordan McLeod, for Elijah Surratt, for various other athletes like Jalen Walker, like Taurus Jones. That's how all that works. So the Montpelier Collective, you're essentially donating to them, and then they figure out how they want to dole out the money. From a Curt Signetti perspective, they don't really have the budget. Like the Duke Club, maybe, but the Duke Club also does a lot of stuff with a lot of other programs. Like donating to the Duke Club is a good thing. It helps the athletic department as a whole, but like they're not going to, I wouldn't expect them to just like put their hand into the Duke Club jar, pull out $2 million and just hand it to Curt Signetti type of thing. It needs to be earmarked. And I don't think they have a ton of budget earmarked for a raise for Signetti in the millions.
Yeah, they can't really compete right now with if a P5 swooped in and said, hey, we want Curt Signetti. It would be up to him to be like, accept a smaller raise from JMU and build like legacy, or take a P5 job. So, and the other question here from Matt Bailey, I believe it is, MB Chief. Do we see a massive contract for Signetti from JMU after this season?
I do think it means, no, I don't think we do, because I don't think there's the budget for that. I do think it means something in terms of Signetti wanting to stay here, that he signed that clause in his contract that for like every year he gets 9 wins, he gets a year added.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
That's good. He's got like long-term stability.
Yes.
It's just a matter of like, do you want to go make like 5 times what you're making? I have no idea what the answer would be for him.
I don't either. I mean, he's made his career leaving Alabama as an assistant to go coach at the Division II level.
That's interesting. I wonder too about Bourne though, where it's like if you really like Bourne, are you going to have that same connection with a new athletic director that you're like, hey, they trust me to just do whatever I want for the next decade?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know either. These are all great questions. And again, why the athletic director hire is the most important hire in JMU sports history.
Yeah.
Maybe even JMU as a university history. Who cares who the president
cool.
is?
Yeah.
No offense to Alger.
They're thriving right now.
Alger was not dissuading me from being a student. But if like JMU was just like abysmal at every single sport, I may have looked a little harder at Virginia Tech or VCU.
That's true. Okay. From Brandon 65. Have we talked about how well Louisville football is doing this year and how decently we played them shorthanded last year? Both teams have further excelled this season, it seems. It was a glimpse at JMU coming along and being able to play with the big dogs.
Sure. Doesn't matter.
I'd say it's a little different because it's like a different coaching staff at Louisville.
And a different quarterback.
And they did lose by 24. So like,
yeah.
I don't know.
Good question.
I haven't talked to a lot about it because of that. I would like to see them, like, they'd be a fun team because of what they only have one loss right now. If they happen to be like in a New Year's 6 and JMU had a shot, I think that'd be a ton of fun. I have thought about it from like that perspective, but I don't know if they'll end up getting there, Louisville. They do have them, 2025 now. So I think that'll be another really good test. How can you go up against a Jeff Brom Louisville? Yeah,
a much better Louisville.
Yeah. They did healthy Centeo. They probably hang close for 4 quarters,
allegedly. We also beat Marshall if Todd Centeo goes, but that's not allegedly. That's a fact.
There's another one in here from Grant Horan that's just, I guess that's a meme of him trying to convince you to expand.
What's the question?
What's the question?
What's the
another
meme?
One? You'll just have to look it up. It's Star Wars. It's too many things to explain. Mr. Met 6286. When are we going to celebrate the 1982-83 men's basketball team?
When they get ranked. Oh, wait, they didn't.
Is that 40 years for them?
What can you,
like a 40-year anniversary of 1983?
What'd they do?
Is that the one that almost beat Jordan?
I was going to say, is that the one that don't? Okay.
I'm assuming. Sure. I don't know. You got to ask the athletic department. They probably have something, to be honest. But I don't know. It's a good question. I don't know.
That's a great question.
From Mangy Dog, why does Liberty need to pay its coach $4 million a year? It's almost like working for a low-class, scandal-ridden institution. Peddling low-value degrees is ruinous to one's reputation.
Who said that?
Mangy Dog. I think he asked like a hateful question every week.
Why does Liberty need to?
They got the money.
Oh, I see. It has the answer in the question. Why does Liberty have to pay $4 million for its head coach? Yeah. I also see the meme now. Search your feelings. You know it to be true. No, me trying to convince the stadiums. Honestly, after me seeing the ticket prices and actually like being on that side of like having to purchase it, maybe we should expand. I'm kidding. Do not expand. We don't have to expand yet.
Okay, last question in this area, and then there's another area with questions. Is this the peak? This is from Kyle Helmick. Is this the peak for JMU Athletics, and where does JMU Athletics go from here?
Yes, it's the peak, and I think there's still room to continue going up.
That's not what a peak is.
Then no, it's not the peak. We're still on the rise.
No, it definitely feels like a peak, right? Where like they had all these things great happen at once, but they could still have like more like less flashy success, maybe.
It feels like a benchmark. Like it feels like this is a place that we will come back to in 5, 10, 15 years. Be like, do you remember what happened in 2023? Do you remember that time where football went undefeated, men's basketball was ranked, and we had college game day? Which was a benchmark, which to me is like a peak.
Okay. From Nova Live. Looking towards the future, what players, this is for football, what players already on the team or recruits can you see becoming true cornerstones for our team? He would love to hear some opinions.
Bennett's going to answer the deep end and Chauncey Heisman watch Logan.
Yeah. Surratt.
Elijah Surratt. Who's the Amar Thomas?
Yeah, Kamara, if you keep him, you have for a little bit.
Jalen Walker, if you keep him, you have him for another year. I'm really not the best, though, at like up and coming players. I'll say that much.
They've got some good young ones. I think the other part that's probably very important to note here, some of them like just aren't on the team right now. Right? Like Surratt wasn't on the team last year at this time.
Yes.
McLeod, like some of the cornerstones for like next year, or maybe even years beyond that, probably on other rosters and will transfer in the winter.
Yes. So I think there's a good core there. All of the coverage from Ben Hofer, Ben Hofer. Sorry, Ben. I should have learned.
You said Hofer on one of the things, so I've always thought it was Hofer. If it's wrong,
okay.
I'll text him. We'll see if we can get a live scoop.
Okay. Ben, his coverage with recruiting has really made me kind of excited about what Mendoza might bring, a quarterback that they've recruited, what Chase Regan might do, Jaja Boyd, all of the names that we're seeing in the recruiting circles. But in terms of like on the roster right now, I think that's something that they'll get transfers in and we'll see impacts. I think Nova mentioned Maxwell Moss in one of his replies. He was talking with Daniel about it. Maxwell Moss is another name. We haven't seen him. Hofer. I was right. Hey, but yeah. So, I think they have a really good nucleus, and I think they're poised to keep this kind of momentum going.
Question from
not Hoffer.
Question from Ben Hofer. What would be more impressive, football going 12-0 or men's basketball making the Sweet 16?
Football. And I know we've talked about how cool it would be for basketball to make a Sweet 16, and I think that would be amazing, but you don't see group of 5 teams go undefeated all that often.
Especially transitioning ones.
The last time we saw a group of 5 team make the college football playoff was Cincinnati. I think this is giving JMU the springboard to, and I'm getting way over my skis with this, but for next year to start the season ranked and potentially be the 2024 version of the Cincinnati Bearcats.
That's right.
So I think it's more impressive because it's not out of the ordinary for a random mid-major to catch fire at the right time and make a Sweet 16. It's out of the ordinary for a transitioning team to go 12-0.
Very cool. Okay, Scott Daniel, flies and decoys. This is not a troll question because while his tenure was short, it was monumental for Jamie's football program. But what do you think is going through Mike Houston's mind right now?
Can I say a take?
Okay.
I don't think Mike Houston's a great coach.
I think that's probably they're 2-8 this year, 1-5 in the AAC.
I don't think he's a good recruiter, more so.
Their wins are over FAU last week and Gardner-Webb.
If you look at Mike Houston's coaching tenure, he's successful in the first 1 to 3 years he's at a program, and then they kind of spiral a little bit. He makes the most out of the other coaches' recruits, turns the team into something very good, and capitalizes with a new job. He did that at the Citadel. He did that at, was it Lenore Rhine?
Yeah.
He did that at JMU. And then he got to ECU. The recruits weren't necessarily amazing, but he's gotten progressively worse every year. So I think he's looking back. I'm glad we lost Mike Houston. I think Kurt Cignetti is a better everything than Mike Houston was.
Oh yeah, big time. He's never, prior to ECU, had never been the head coach somewhere for more than 3 consecutive seasons, which is a credit to like the success he had. But at the same time, like his last year at JMU became a dumpster fire, and he's had kind of 2 good years at ECU now and 3 bad ones.
And you saw what Danucci did with Cignetti in the first year. He burned that bridge. He destroyed the confidence of an NFL quarterback. It was likely that if Houston stayed, we would have seen Gage Maloney start in the next year.
But so I think I was just going to say, for his going through his head, he's probably happy he took the paycheck. I'm really interested to see if it doesn't work out at ECU, where he goes, if he goes like FCS head coach or if he tries to become a coordinator somewhere or whatever.
I think he'd be a really good defensive coordinator.
He could be.
We'll see. But I think going through his head right now is, I got the paycheck, thank goodness, because I probably would have been fired.
Yeah. All right. Daniel Merriman, our guy.
Our boy.
followed by, anyway, he's following one of our other boys. We got a lot of boys. Do you think the run game will reappear against App, or will it mostly be an air raid style attack on the offensive side of the ball?
I think it's going to be pass heavy.
Run that rock. Let's see if you can run that rock.
I don't think we're going to see a run game materialize.
Kind of feels like a Latrell Palmer game.
For the final 8 games of the season, I don't think we're going to see another good rush attack.
Okay. All right. This is from the Salt podcast. Has there truly ever been a better time to be a Dukes fan? Even with the past football championship seasons, College World Series appearances, I think the hype and passion are greater for JMU at this present time over anything we've seen in years past.
Yeah, this is definitely the best time to be a Dukes fan.
It's pretty great.
It's a great time to be a JMU Dukes fan. It's a great time to be a Dukes Mayo fan. Heck, it's a great time to be a Famous Toastery fan. The new naming rights of the Bahamas Bowl being held in Charlotte, North Carolina this year.
Heck yeah. From Alex 092975. Gentlemen, how are we feeling about ticket prices on SeatGeek with tickets over $1,000 and SeatGeek calling them good deals for JMU versus App?
It's a club seat. It's a club seat. So I think with a club seat, you get like free food and drinks.
Oh, well, in that case.
Still a terrible deal. I mean, I've been updating SeatGeek like every few hours, trying to find a good ticket. I'm really just trying to find one for like $150. Probably won't get that until the day of the game.
Yeah. Okay, we got another one that's talking about.
Wait, before.
Yeah.
Can we talk about the sheer number of Beavers who roasted College Game Day for their decision? Kind of scared how united they were in their PR campaign.
I would have been mad too. Like if JMU was a top 10 team and they're playing another top 10 team with college football playoff implications, and then they went to a 1-ranked team versus 6 and 4 unranked team, I'd be like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
So I understand why they were as angry as they were. I think they sort of assumed they had it.
And we had Tyler T real quick say, late to the show, sorry if you discussed already. Are there some worries about the O-line slow start against UConn? App State's D-line is much better. No, because it really wasn't that slow of a start. It went punt, field goal, touchdown, punt.
He was getting decked though on those first couple of drives.
Yeah, but like you could have easily gone punt, touchdown, punt.
It wasn't like bad. And then they locked in pretty good later.
And they locked in really well. But I think that is to be expected when you're losing Nick Kidwell and Tyshawn Wyatt.
Yeah. Okay, what did I miss? Here's another one. This is a must discuss, talking about sign ideas. Talking about the App State game. This is from Peter, the PTK way. We'll go with the App State part. How could they potentially beat us? Game makes him nervous.
I think they beat us by throwing the ball at the same rate they have been. If JMU's secondary can't step up in the moment, if we have another slow start like we did against UConn, if we find ourselves in the hole 21-13, this game is much different. If they take the crowd out early, there's a lot of ways App State can win this game, which is why it makes me nervous too. I think there is a 60-40 chance JMU wins.
All right.
Which is the closest I've thought all season.
Really? This is from Landy at Secure the Cake. What are your top picks for game day celebrity guest picker?
Bennett and Jack.
Great pick.
Everyone, I already did the call to action earlier. Tweet at Pat McAfee to come to the live podcast at 3 Notch Valley Collab House at 5 p.m. on Friday. His show wraps at around 3 or 4 p.m. So he'll be in the vicinity. Everyone tell Pat McAfee to come to the live podcast. Tweet at him. Blow up his phone. Blow out the show's notifications. Make it known that he needs to come by the 3 Notch Valley Collab House for the podcast. On the same note, tweet at College Game Day. Say Jack and Bennett. We have the Sunbelt Weekly Pick'em. We know what we're talking about. Some more than others. Me better than Bennett. That's for sure. My actual top pick is. It is funny though that like year one was.
They had like Dirks Bentley.
Year one was Dirks Bentley. Year two was Seth Wickersham dressed up as James Madison.
Oh, I forgot. That was stupid. Yeah,
because they couldn't find a guest picker. But the Shenandoah Valley Airport's right there.
I would pick either Taylor Swift or Trump.
Maybe Travis Kelce.
I think Trump would be a surprising one where it's like, what? Donald Trump's here? Like, get people fired up.
You're not wrong. Real quick, this is a little shade during listener questions. From a family friend of mine, Seahawks fan. He's the reason I'm a Seahawks fan. How about them Seahawks? Well, Jeff, we can definitely say that we're doing a lot better than the Lions, who lost to us earlier in the season and looked like absolute frauds after being blown up by the Ravens.
I was like, what's the shade there? They beat the Commanders. The Lions are trending toward the number 1 seed in the NFC.
Yeah, to get destroyed by Seattle in the NFC Championship game. Put Geno in a dome and see what happens.
Doesn't seem very frightening. Okay, from Randy W.
I'm sorry,
Hunter.
you just let the Chargers score 38 points. The Seahawks could never.
How many points did the Lions score? Randy W. Hunter 1. Will the NCAA notice the game day visit as something to look at and reconsider the injustice of the postseason ban?
I think we've talked about that a little bit. Maybe.
It'd be a little effed up if they did, but they should just give them the waiver because they deserve it, not because of they're scared of game days commentary. Yeah. One final question. This is from TOFUS0UP. Tofus you up. I don't know. It was I feel like it could have been something offensive that I don't understand. I don't know. Anyway, your all's outlook on the JMU football program over the next 5 years.
$5 years is a long time. I think there's a lull. I mean, look at Cincinnati.
My guess.
Look at App State. I mean, it's unrealistic. It's unrealistic to think that JMU stays at this height from now until 2028.
I think they
likely that they're going to lose more than 3 games in 2-year periods.
Cignetti stays. They win 2 national titles. Saban retires from Alabama to become JMU's defensive coordinator. Mike Houston becomes the linebackers coach.
I will say
Withers coaches the corners.
I hate you. Over the next 5 years, maybe 2 college football playoff appearances.
That would be absurd. Oh, man, I hope that happens. That'd be crazy.
But yeah. All right. Anything else?
I think that's everything.
All right. This was a beefy podcast. But thank you all so much for tuning in. And just remember, folks, the first time in program history, JMU men's basketball is ranked. We're one of 6 teams in the entire country to have both men's basketball and football ranked. We're one of 2 teams in the entire country to have football, basketball, men's soccer, women's soccer, all still playing. Well, that's the wrong way to say it. Men's soccer, women's soccer in the tournament, men's basketball, whatever it is. We're really good at all sports. So it's been an absolute blast of a podcast today. Bennett, anything else you got to add?
No.
All right. For Bennett Conlon, my name's Jack Fitzpatrick. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to the JMU Sports News Podcast. We will see you on Friday, 3-notch Valley Collab House. Get ready for the live pod.
Thank you for listening to Believe. You can show support to your host by subscribing to the show and giving us a 5-star rating on your preferred platform. Check us out at Believe.com and search for BLEAV on YouTube.